It's been, well, it's not been a while because the last two episodes were actually featuring guests, but this time around we bring a specialist to talk about AI law. And I have some interesting stuff to share with you when it comes to the regulations, when it comes to the panorama right now in Japan, when it comes to AI, and the things that have changed since I last talked about AI with you. So this is going to be quite the extensive episode. There's some complex stuff that may appear on this episode, but still, I hope this is going to be enjoyable to you and that you can further understand the worries that everyone has with AI coming to basically still work from your favorite SEIYUU, because AI is basically doing that at the moment in some platforms in China and on some media platforms such as TikTok. So we are going to talk about that and more in this episode, so let's go to the recording itself.
Okay, so hi, my name is Emmanuelle, currently a law student finishing her studies in law school, and I'm specialized in digital and AI law. And right now I'm doing research about voice cloning, especially in Europe, in the European Union, or even in the US, or even in Japan. That's why we're having this conversation today, and thank you for having me. So what's the current situation of the voice acting industry in Japan?
Yeah, at the moment, let's say the industry itself is saturated with tons of voice actors at the moment. And to put it even worse, we now have AI to compete with. So voice actors are actually kind of worried about what AI can actually do to their work, and especially seeing as some LLMs are actually pretty good at mimicking their voice or cloning their voice, they are fairly worried, and with good reason, about AI being in the playground, basically stealing their jobs in some capacity, in some fields specifically. So there's that worry. There's also the fact that the industry itself is actually changing quite a lot. It's because they have to go from the voice acting to actually appearing on TV and doing interviews all the time, and now they have also to worry about AI coming for their job, which is their base job, which is voice acting. So now they have to double down on everything else that is not necessarily voice acting. So they are worried, and there is a certain unrest right now in the industry because of that, because they don't know where to go next, and the industry is changing so much at the moment that they don't even know what is going to happen next. Of course, some SEIYUU are actually mentioning that if they are talented, no one can replace them. But still, AI is worrying, and they know that there is that menace, there is that worry in the background that is coming for them, regardless if they are insanely talented and with a voice that cannot be cloned, let's say, but it can, we know. They are worried all the same, yeah.
So yeah, this is true. This is a really important situation. So how would voice currently be protected under, well, Japanese law for both SEIYUU or non-SEIYUU?
Yeah, I would say in Japan, a good way for them to actually protect their voice is because they are lending it to copyrighted work. So that's a good way for them to ensure that their voice is actually protected. So the more work they do, the more their work is protected, more their voice is protected. Let's say, from starters. That's a good way for them to ensure that they have their voice protected, but only in those specific cases, because outside of that, they don't have that protection. There is no protection whatsoever right now, and a big reason, I believe, is that let's say, Japan didn't see voice acting as a real job. And that's a massive reason why it wasn't protected up until now. And now that we start seeing SEIYUU all over the world, going to conventions, appearing in premieres all over the world, it starts to make a difference, because people are starting to see them outside and they think, well, this is a legitimate job, so why aren't they protected? Why are they still being paid so less for their work? Why basically is their work being stolen? So those questions are now arising. The more they are getting on the spotlight, and we have seen that change in the past couple of years. Let's say when I started covering male SEIYUU in 2010, barely anyone knew about them, barely anyone knew their faces. And only around 2010 did they start to be a bit on the spotlight. 2015 they started to emerge, and let's say in 2020 they've become the thing, especially in the otaku sphere. So let's say since 2010 they have become really big, and a problem because of that is the bigger they become, the more people are prone to stealing from them. So that's a thing that comes hand in hand in there. So when it comes to protecting their work, they only have those things, which is basically they work for a production. That production is actually copywriting the work because the work is copyrighted to an anime production or a copyrights holder that may be someone else, let's say a mangaka. So that's a good way for them to protect their work. But outside of that, they don't have anything to protect their work. There are some seiyuu that actually are working on that front and ensuring that they are protecting their work. A good example, and he's quite proactive in this case, is Yuki Kaji. He's being quite vocal and quite proactive when it comes to protecting his voice and his rights. And he has also spoken for everyone else, but he went to the forefront and actually tried to do that for himself. We see more and more companies pushing those AIs that can actually clone the voice. You only need to submit a 15-second sample of your voice that can create everything around it. While it may sound good on paper, it's not good on paper. And for sure, you are, basically, for starters, you are lending your voice for something. You don't know where it's going to stop. Are they going to use your voice beyond what you just submitted? You don't know. And they usually say it is on the cloud for a couple of days and then it is deleted. You cannot ensure that. And there are problems regarding that, and people don't know if their voices are actually being removed from the platform when they try to see what the platform can do or not. And in this case, SEIYUU are actually pretty much worried about that. And Yuki Kaji came to the forefront and he actually said, I'm going to copyright my voice. And I'm going to create an LLM around my voice. And if you want to, you pay to use that LLM. If you cannot pay for my usual fees, you pay for that LLM. It's my voice, it is certified, you can use it. I recorded everything for a couple of months. You can use that LLM, and it was created by me for you. So he licensed it. Basically what he did was license his own voice for people to use it as AI, but in this case you are actually paying rights to use his voice. The only difference is that you are not paying for him to do the job on the spot. You can actually submit a transcript or lyrics for him to sing, and that platform will sing for you. It is his real voice. So that's pretty awesome. I have a couple of notes here that can help you. It is Soyoki, I believe. Soyogi Fractal, it is the name. I can share the link with you later on. He created that, and he actually had people help him with a sort of a Kickstarter to finance the creation of the LLM, and he ended up recording all the voices, all the sounds, all the emotions, everything else that you may need when you go to an AI platform. And in this case, what happens is that while people are using AI, and he knows people will continue to use AI, what he's making is basically it is easier for people to use him as AI, but in this case you are actually paying a fraction of the money directly to him, the rights holder, to use his voice. And in this case, he continues to get money for a period of time that can stretch even after he dies, which is pretty good. And he's ensuring that he's battling with the AIs that are really stealing work from him, or for basically people that are using his voice without any permission on AIs to play around and create things that he doesn't allow. And that he actually mentioned in an interview for, I believe, NHK a couple of years ago or last year. I will have to double check. He mentioned that, especially when he was confronted with a recording of his own voice that was not his own voice, it was a cloning app. He actually said it was terrifying how close it was to his voice. The only thing missing was the little inflections that he does and some quirks in his voice. But other than that, no one without training to tell his voice apart will notice if it is AI or not. And we see a proliferation of that, for example, in platforms like Bilibili. It is the sort of YouTube platform in China. And you see proliferation of those AI covers songs and things like that, which are weird as heck. And he said it's not really the usage of AI that worries him a lot. It does, but what worries him is that people are using his voice to do things that he doesn't allow, or to talk about things that he doesn't support, and that's worrying. And we will talk, of course, about deepfakes and everything else. It goes in line with those things. So he is worried about how people can distort himself and his persona to actually fit what they want using AI. That's worrying. And he says that more that people basically stealing work from him, it's that they can use his voice to voice things that he would never support, or to do things that he would never accept in his life, as a voice actor, of course.
I didn't know about this new LLM of Yuki Kaji. This is really surprising.
It is amazing what he did, because people were saying, okay, so how can we counter AI? And he was thinking, well, if I cannot actually go and sue every single platform that features my voice, because people are submitting the voice, not the platform itself. So I cannot go and follow everyone that is submitting my voice online. So what can I do? He's actually quite smart in this case. He thought about creating his own LLM. So if it is so easy for other people to create it, why can't I create it? And he created that. So that's a good way for him to ensure that he has the copyrights to his voice. People are using copyrighted voice they can use because it is copyrighted to them. As, let's say, they will pay for something. I don't know still how it is going to be the model. He's trying that, and he's showing on his YouTube channel. He shows tons of covers that he does, and he submits the lyrics, the AI sings for him, and he duets with his voice, so that people can check how close the voice is in the LLM. It is crazy what he's has been doing. And SEIYUU Fractal is quite the interesting project. He's the only SEIYUU with a project like this. It is pioneering, really. So I would say that's a good way to start when it comes to the copywriting of the voice. He is basically the first SEIYUU to actually come forward and say, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to do it myself. And people were actually on board with that, and they were supporting, and they actually kickstarted it so that they could create the LLM. So it is quite the fascinating project, I would say. Please go check more about it. I will share the link with you later on. It's fascinating, this project, really. And it is one of the very first steps that SEIYUU are actually taking towards actually having their voices supported and having their work supported and not having work stolen by AI.
Oh, well, thank you for this example, because, well, this is so smart and I never thought about this. I was just about to ask I just wanted to ask you about the ongoing legal and industry initiatives to protect voices from AI cloning in Japan. So the Yuki Kaji example is like very impressive. Maybe the current movements are thinking about doing something similar. I don't know.
Some SEIYUU have teamed up, and they created the let me check. It's No More Unauthorized AI. So it is a campaign focused on basically SEIYUU, including Yuki Kaji at the forefront, and Jun Fukuyama. They actually teamed up with several SEIYUU, from the veterans to the new ones, to talk about how AI is going to steal their work, and showing how AI doesn't have the soul behind, doesn't have those ears training. So they have that initiative. They started last year in October, and they have released so far 4 videos talking about that and showing the differences of what using AI actually makes and what their voice actually makes, and how you are on one end, you are doing or creating soulless content using their voices unauthorized, and on the other hand, you are supporting the craft, an industry that is actually growing a whole lot, and so many people actually now want to join the industry. So they are showing that they are teaming up against something that is worrying them, but they have a couple of other organizations supporting them right now. I was surprised when I saw this, because when they started, only the Japan Actors Union was teaming up to talk about it. But right now they have the support not only from the Japan Actors Union, they have the Japan Association of Audio Producers, which is kind of big because it rules everything from anime to drama CDs to games to everything. So it is a big one to bring in as a support. And they also have the Japan Association of Talent Management. So the managers are also on it. We have the Japan Voice Actors Association, which is another one on the side. So they have tons of voice acting associations. You need to opt in or out there. So this is another one they have. They have also the National Association of Japanese Anime Film Culture, which is massive. Once again, they have the Kansai Actors Association, the Japanese New Theater Actors Association, and the Japan Voice AI Training Data Certification Organization, which is kind of interesting because we have an AI organization supporting a project against AI. So what they are doing here is basically supporting what Yuki Kaji has and not supporting the usage of AI how they now do. So this is kind of interesting. And to wrap it up, we have the Writers Guild of Japan. So we have everything from the audio to the script writers to actually even AI associations on board with this one. So this is the very first time that we have all these associations teaming up. Of course, this is all volunteer work by right now. They don't have any sort of really rigid structure on anything like that, but they are trying to make a push for the government to actually regulate that. And last year, I remember actually something that Junichi Suwabe, also another well-known voice actor, it was mentioning that it is worrying to see that this is not regulated in any way, and that many people are worried about this with a good reason, but that you cannot replace really the heart and soul of anime, because you are seeing images being animated. Those need basically emotion. If you bring AI in, you don't have anything there. You just have really images and a sound that is going to sound generic. It's not going to convey anything, and the stories are not going to be conveyed as they should. So it's doing a disservice basically to everyone involved. So we have those voices in here. There are many SEIYUU. I don't know if you want the names of all the SEIYUU that are involved in this talk, but there are many. I'm going to list them, and you can do whatever you want with that. So we have Yuki Kaji, of course. We have Jun Fukuyama, Junichi Suwabe. We have Yu Shimamura, Yuko Kaida. We have Hiroki Tochi, Michihiro Ikemizu, Yuko Sasaki, and then we have many more. Let's say Koichi Yamadera, a legend. And this is the SEIYUU who earns the most money in Japan with voice acting alone. So this is the big one. He is the highest earning SEIYUU in Japan, Koichi Yamadera, and he is actually also on board with this. Then we have Chika Sakamoto, Mika Kanai, Toshiko Seki, Hyusei Nakao, another legend from the 80s and 70s in anime. Also Daisuke Namikawa, Joji Nakata, Bin Shimada, Ryota Takeuchi, Yoji Ueda, and Romi Pak, which is a massive lineup of talent in here. So these are some of the biggest voices in Japan. They are practically everywhere since the 70s up until now. So we are covering a ton of generations here. And they are all teaming up together for the No More Unauthorized AI Generation campaign. This is sort of a coalition, sort of a teaming up of voice actors and associations against AI. They are trying to push to regulate that with the government, but they don't know if that is going to be possible, because the government is actually ignoring these, and they don't know if this is ever going to be regulated in some way, because right now they still don't have their wages regulated. They don't have anything when it comes to wages, so they are really being paid really low for their work because that's not regulated whatsoever. So they still have that to solve, and then they have AI on top of all of that. So yeah.
Well, thank you for this answer, which is very complete. So I wanted to know, how does Japan's voice acting industry compare to other countries in terms of voice protection and regulation? Well, you were talking about this campaign. It makes me think that, I'm in France. There was a similar campaign for this, everyone was scared about AI. Like, every voice actor was very scared.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, maybe in your country, there's something similar campaign, or what about voice protection in general?
Yeah. When it comes to Portugal, let's say, voice acting is not a career, so it is not regulated whatsoever.
Okay.
People say actors can do voice acting, but there isn't a career for voice acting. So you have radio personalities doing that. You have people from the TV, models doing voice acting. It's all over the place. We don't have that regulated. We don't have quality when it comes to voice acting. And we also don't have a tradition of dubbing. In Portugal, we don't dub anything beyond children's movies. So we don't have that. It's not a career here. So unfortunately, there's no regulation whatsoever. When it comes to other sides, we have seen a couple of, we have seen discourse in the US about that. They were pretty vocal with a couple of manifestations in Los Angeles because of that, and how voice actors were not being paid enough. We're worried about AI because, let's say, not only when it comes to, audiobooks, for example, dubbing in anime series or animation series, but also in video games. And last year there was a problem with Ubisoft, one of the biggest games companies in Canada, and they said they were going to start outsourcing voices for NPC characters, which is to say side characters in games, to AI, and they were going to use AI for that. There are a couple of articles on the web about that. People were completely against that because they usually have crazy ideas. This one was another one of their crazy ideas, and they said that they were going to outsource every single side voice in a game to AI, which basically led to a lot of backlash and voice actors being really vocal about what about people starting out. They need roles. Where do they get them? They are not getting any roles whatsoever. People are already really paid really low for those for giving voice in those games, in those anime series, in audio dramas. They are not paid enough for their work or for their craft. And now we have AI stealing that from them in video games, one of the biggest industries in the world. Let's say it is the biggest industry in the world when it comes to entertainment. And now they can come and push for AI for their games. People were livid about that. That's the craziest idea that someone could have, because they wanted to save costs, which is to say ridiculous, because they were already not paying enough to those people. And sometimes they have one person doing all the side voices. So that's not an excuse. And they were just trying to see where they could cut corners, basically, and to avoid having more people on the project. We had those manifestations when it comes to the US. They were quite vocal in LA when it came to voice acting. They went to the streets to talk about it. They went to ask for better compensation. They were worried about that. AI is still a menace. There is a lot of discourse, for example, on social media platforms like Threads, in which voice actors are there in mass because they are working with authors to actually do their work in audiobooks, and they are really vocal about. Now, platforms like Amazon, for example, they started this month offering any author the possibility to use AI to really voice their work, which is crazy. They do that for free. You can actually submit your books. The AI is going to read that, put that in a database that you don't know where it's going to end, and it's going to deliver something really weird for people to listen to. But they say this is groundbreaking. This is something that will help everyone that doesn't have a budget to pay for voice acting. That's crazy. There are platforms, I believe it is ACX, which is a platform where you can share revenue with voice actors, and you can create basically an audiobook, basically at minimal cost, because we are going to share royalties with them. There's those platforms, although those are limited to the US and Canada, I believe, US, Canada, and UK. Those platforms already exist. They only need to be expanded to other countries, let's say, to actually allow that for people to have real voice actors instead of AI. But that was something crazy coming from Amazon to actually allow that for authors that are completely against AI to have the opportunity to use AI to voice their books completely. People are livid. Yet again, people are livid. So you see more of that push towards let's use AI because AI voices sound natural right now. They sound really amazing. And actually some voice actors are lending their voices to AI platforms, to each their own. Of course, they need the money, let them do that. But still, there's a lot of discourse of some of those voices being stolen from places we don't know, and people finding similarities in the tones to other people who haven't allowed it. And when you think about it, for example, I have a podcast. someone can grab a snippet of my voice, bring it to an AI, and create a podcast episode with my voice. I never said those things, and it can create hell on earth for me. So that's worrying, and voice actors are worried about that because people are using their voices, not only in Japan, but also outside. They are bringing snippets of their voices in the US and let's say in Europe, and taking to those platforms and creating whatever fantasies they have, and they are using and cloning their voices, and they are putting those voices in whatever place it ends up in, which we don't know. They don't disclose. They usually disclose, but it is something really vague. So it is really worrying in that case. So we see a lot of work in the US, I would say Canada as well, towards pushing we don't want AI whatsoever, so stop that, or at least try to regulate that, in which capacity we can use AI and which we don't, so that we don't have work stolen from professionals, and that we ensure that people are paying for something in which there is human contact, there is human touch, instead of everything was done by a PC and, well, you deal with that. So yeah, there's a lot of regulation in that case. In Europe, I don't hear as much. I know that France is really vocal about everything when it comes to rights, which is something that we should have more of. But I would argue that unless we are talking about France, I would say Germany, Spain, and Italy, in which voice acting is really big, and Brazil in some way outside of Europe. Brazil also is really big in voice acting. I wouldn't say other countries are really worried about that or are regulating any of that. But I don't see much discourse when it comes to Europe itself. I see a lot of discourse when it comes to the US, Canada, and the UK. They are really vocal about that, although we still don't see as much regulated or as much talk about regulating it. So yeah.
Well, it makes me think about a very random question, and I just want your quick opinion about it. I've seen many posts on forums about new voice actors writing, "Oh, this company asked me if I could lend my voice for like 15 hours of recording in exchange of $10,000, and it's a huge sum. What do you think about this? Just for AI." And everyone, I don't know, some people in the comments are saying, don't do that.
If they really weren't paying that, I believe people wouldn't be so into it. I see some voice actors actually succumbing to that because voice acting doesn't pay enough. That's a problem with everything that is regarding arts. It is not paid enough, so people see the money, they will not think twice in some cases. So I would say that's worrying. And they are trying to actually bring more and more people to actually do that. And they are getting those people because we see those platforms proliferating everywhere. I see, for example, The Script. The Script is one of those platforms that offers natural voices. We see Epidemic Sound offering now voices that are licensed. We know the names of the voice actors, but still, it is weird because it is AI still. It is something akin to what Yuki Kaji is doing. I would say it's closer, but still we have tons of platforms that have the voices, don't name the voice actors, don't give them credit, they paid that large sum, but they don't get any royalties whatsoever. Once again, the problem arises of using that voice to do nefarious stuff or to voice nefarious things, so that's worrying. I would say to those voice actors to actually avoid that as much as possible. I know that money doesn't come often in that space, and it is kind of hard to actually break into that space and get consistent work, I know, but that's not the way to go because you don't know how your voice is going to be used. You may be thinking, well, I don't worry about how my voice is going to be used. Well, let's say until it is used in something that really opposes to you, or until it is used in something that ruins your career completely. So it is something that they need to worry about. It is the implications of lending the voice. The money is good. Yeah, we don't argue about that, but the implications down the line. Imagine that now you are so pro AI, but then when you start to get famous, you start seeing people are not into AI, so you need to shift the narrative. And now your voice is used in AI. You cannot remove it from there. You sold your rights completely to them. So you don't own your voice. You start not owning your voice, which is crazy, because you will continue doing your work outside of that, but you no longer own your voice because you lend some of it to those platforms. That's crazy when you look at the implications and when you look at what are the rights that you are transferring to other people. Is it perpetual? Because they are paying that sum. You are actually lending those perpetually to them. Because, yeah, that's what is in those agreements that you didn't read, you just signed. So it is worrying that people are actually being okay with that when they are not going to get any royalties whatsoever. We don't know if anything that they are going to voice, their AI voice is going to voice, is going to actually make someone or some brand really big. And you could have been earning that money and now you aren't because you were too greedy and you took that money to lend it to an AI platform. There are tons of websites in which you can actually offer your services as a voice actor, even for international voice actors. Let's say Europe and US, Brazil. You have voices.com, I believe, the website, in which people can actually offer their services as voice actors. There are tons of forums. You can actually find people on Reddit offering their services because they are starting to create a portfolio. You have Discord servers as well for people that are actually teaming up and showing their work. You also have Threads as another platform for people to come together and talk about voice acting and talk about their craft and show their work and pitch their services. So you don't need to really go all into AI and lend your voice perpetually to something that will be earning a ton of money, because you look at it like that. You are getting $10,000, but the platform is actually charging 200 euros per month per person. They are going to make that money in an instant. They are going to make that money back in an instant. You think that you made a lot of money, but for them it's maybe one month of subscriptions, maybe less. So for them it's nothing really. It is crazy how people actually succumb to that. I know money doesn't come often, but still, it is crazy. This was just part 1 of 2. In the next episode, let's continue to talk about AI law and how it is touching upon other mediums, not only voice acting, but also writing, music, and everything in between. So catch me in the next episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Well, if you have any questions, anything whatsoever, comments, leave those below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.